All right, and showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Channel Pro 5 Minute Roundup. A look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm executive editor of the Channel Pro Network and one of your hosts for this program. With me is my co-host, Eric Simpson, who is a business improvement and training consultant for MSPs and other IT solution providers. Eric, I am back home from IT Nation here in Seattle this week. Where are you, though?
I am in Fargo, North Dakota today, where it is a balmy 17 degrees. Snow on the ground, snow at the airport. It's winter. Winter is coming, and it is here, Rich, in Fargo, North Dakota.
It has arrived already in Fargo. Yeah, I'm guessing that's not Celsius. That is Fahrenheit. Well, you're a Southern California. Do you know how to drive in the snow?
I drive more in the snow when I'm out of Southern California, wink, wink, than I do when I'm in Southern California. So, yeah, I grew up in New York, so I've got a few special skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Good to hear. You're going to need those, it sounds like, this week. Well, let's dive into the news here. And, there's been a lot going on in the industry in the last week or so. We reported from IT Nation Connect last week. Kaseya has had news, SolarWinds MSP. There was a story I wrote about in the last week that didn't get a whole ton of attention, but I figured we'd spend a little time with it here on this show. And that is the announcement that the former eFolder Axient, or excuse me, Axient eFolder, has renamed itself within the last week, just plain Axient. Now, we all remember eFolder. They started out in file sync and share. They got into BDR. Axient is a disaster recovery as a service vendor. Those two companies came together. They did business for a while as Axient eFolder. They have officially rebranded themselves as Axient now, which in and of itself is not an enormous piece of news. What I think is kind of interesting about it, I suppose there are a couple of things. First of all, and the senior executives at Axient are perfectly straightforward about all of this. They will freely acknowledge that in years past, Axient sort of stepped away from the MSP channel and did a lot of business direct. And they have decided to reverse course on that now. They are all in 100% focused on the MSP channel and pretty much everything that they're doing. And so they are in the process of rolling out a unified management interface that's going to be part of an all-new partner portal. They're adding all sorts of new functionality to the portal. They've put this new partner success team into place that does nothing basically but try to help partners grow their business and be more successful. A whole bunch of different things, actually, and investments that they're making that are designed in rebuilding an MSP channel that they kind of stepped away from. And, what's interesting about that there is just that it's a reflection of the fact that when you do step away from a channel like that, it does take those kinds of investments to win the channel partners back, but it takes a little more than that. It takes some time. Essentially, you've got to win the partner's trust back. And so it'll be interesting watching Axient kind of hammer away at this problem, spend the money, put the time in, and really try to win back partners maybe who had some questions about them before. And then the other thing that's interesting really about any standalone BDR, file sync and share, backup, disaster recovery as a service vendor these days is just that they are competing. They're going head to head against the Dattos and the Kaseyas and the SolarWinds MSPs of this industry now, which are building out product suites that encompass those data protection technologies, but a whole lot more as well. And essentially, the folks at Axient say, when you ask them about that, if we make good software and we do a good job of supporting our partners, they're not going to want to go anywhere else, and we're not going to have anything to worry about. But time will tell if that proves to be true.
Yeah, it sounds, Rich, like they're learning an expensive lesson, right? Whenever there's an acquisition that occurs, typically, the approach is to understand what the success criteria for that acquisition is. What are the synergies? How are we going to grow together? What markets are we going to attack? And like I said, it's kind of a lesson. I think that they're learning that they had this huge, momentum, brand, impetus with eFolder, and it sounds like they're having to come back now and understand where they were playing in that kind of that the larger space, coming back to understand how much potential there is here with the MSP space. And really, that's where all the action is. We're seeing some of the folks that you mentioned, the Veeams and the Dattos and the SolarWinds and all that, there's market share here to be had. And if you're going to, if you're going to do a channel play, then you're going to do a channel play. If you're going to sell direct, you're going to sell direct. And with that, you may have channel conflict. So it sounds like they're moving back in the right direction to try to restore that trust and confidence in their channel partners. And we'll see what happens.
You know, it's worth noting they are essentially under new management right now. The folks who made the decision to step away from the MSP channel really aren't running the company anymore. There's a whole new leadership team put in place by K1, which is the private equity firm that engineered the eFolder Axient acquisition or merger, rather. And those folks, the folks at K1, really believe exactly what you just said, that you know, the action is in the MSP channel as well as BDR. You've got to have a strong channel to succeed in that space. And they're the ones who put in these new leaders. And the new leaders really do believe MSPs are the way to go. But you know, they're dealing with the Axient name. They're dealing with the legacy left in place by their predecessors. And so, you know, they've got work to do, and they know it, and they've dived into that to win folks back.
Yeah, and we see that all too often when the investment group or the equity group, you know, understands that we're kind of deviating off course. We're not really, you know, adding value to the shareholders. You know, they've come in and provided some, how do we say it, guidance?
Yeah, some value add.
Value add, very good.
Well, you know, maybe one of the things the new leadership team over there should do is sit down with a good business read. Could help them make some good decisions going forward. You've got a book tip for us this week.
I have a great book tip for us this week, and my recommendation is Traction by Gino Wickman. And this book basically boils down the essence of what it takes to run effective leadership meetings and strategy meetings and accountability meetings to drive an organization forward, Rich. It's very you know, the concepts in it are very powerful, but they're laid out in a very simple format, and there's downloadable forms that help you identify your strategic vision, your mission, vision, values, the most important things that an organization should be working on one quarter at a time. The point that Gino makes in the book is that, you know, you leave an individual to their own devices, they pretty much stray off the reservation every 90 days. So, you know, focus things in quarterly chunks, prioritize those things properly, establish accountability and measurement processes, which he provides you, and then hold these really effective meetings where you're basically, you know, go or no go. Are we meeting the objectives? Are we not meeting the objectives? And if we're not meeting the objectives, here's how we handle it in a very effective, efficient manner. And it takes all the emotion, I think, and friction out of you know, these types of growth pains for an organization. So really gives very prescriptive advice on how to identify the most important things that everyone should be working on a quarter at a time, how to create measurement processes, and then how to hold them accountable by being very objective about what those goals and measurable milestones are. A great read. I've probably my fifth or sixth time reading it. I have the physical book. I have the Kindle version that I just showed. I have the audio book. So it's one of my top, certainly my top 10 business books that I recommend to partners.
And, you know, there were 3 words in there that are just music to our ears here at Channel Pro. You said powerful, simple, and I don't know that you said actionable, but that was, you know, strongly suggested by this idea that there are the downloads that you can grab and actually work from. That's great stuff. You know, I mean, if nobody has time to spend an enormous amount of time on a 500-word book, but you also don't want to spend time with any book that isn't going to give you ideas that help make your business better. So, I mean, that combination of powerful thinking, simple, easily digestible, with some really concrete ways to put those ideas to work, that sounds like great stuff.
Yeah, and it's based around this entrepreneurial operating system that Gino has developed. And I'm an EOS implementer myself, so I use these same practices and methodologies when I'm consulting with clients, as I am here in wonderful Fargo, North Dakota, where it's, again, probably 16 degrees Fahrenheit by now.
And dropping, apparently.
Yeah, and dropping.
Well, fantastic book tip. I will check that out. For this week, we've only really got time for one more story, and it's a story that raises the question: would you like Tide with that cheese? This has to do with the new Eco Box introduced by the folks at Procter and Gamble, who are responsible for Tide laundry detergent. They had a great idea. It's really sort of hard to argue with the idea. They came up with this new environmentally responsible packaging. It uses 60% less plastic, 30% less water. It's square, so it stacks more easily. They can transport this thing more inexpensively around. I mean, what really is not to like about this idea, right? Well, folks, you'll just have to kind of take my word for it. Go online, look up Tide Eco Box to take a picture of this and understand what I'm talking about. But the new Tide packaging looks pretty much exactly like boxed wine. If there are issues already, basically, with people worried about kids downing laundry detergent, well, you put the laundry detergent in something that looks pretty much like it's ready for serving, and it does kind of make you wonder if that was a wise packaging decision.
Yeah, Rich, it's really I wouldn't call it the sexiest packaging either. It's certainly, I've seen much more attractive boxed wine than this boxed Tide product. This looks like they spent the most on the design of the spigot itself. I understand that it's super high tech, so it doesn't drip after you're done. So anyway, it's you know there you go. Keep your kids away from the laundry room. Period. That's the guidance here.
The good news that comes is that the stuff that comes out of the Eco Box is blue, so the adults at least will probably understand this is not wine. Well, that is all the time we've got this week for you on the Channel Pro 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you very much for joining us. If you like the show, you'd like to see future episodes, maybe catch up on some past episodes you haven't seen before, what you want to do is go to the Channel Pro Network channel on YouTube. You'll find all of our content there. If you subscribe to that, we will keep you up to speed on future episodes of the show. For more information about news like the Axient rebranding and all sorts of great business growth tips, you want to go to channelpronetwork.com every day. We've got great new content for you about what's happening in the industry and how to be more successful at what you do, going live every day on channelpronetwork.com. And to learn more about Eric and the work that he does for his clients, you want to go to www.ericsimpson.com, ERICK That is it for this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. We'll see you again next week on another episode. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.